Jenna, before we move on to your 20 minutes, would you maybe just like to give us a quick recap on what you're going to talk about today?
Of course, yeah. So topics for today, we're going to take you through day in the life of an analyst. How did we get there and what's next? Just offering you some hints and tips during the unusual circumstances, what you can do for yourself if you're interested in analytics and want to find out more. So
fantastic. Sounds great. Looking forward to hearing about it. I should have said that Jenna and Jess are analysts at the OGTC. We do a huge amount of data analytics just because there's quite a lot of complex information that we deal with at the Oil and Gas Technology Centre, and we need people to translate all that data into something that's meaningful. So Jenna's our lead job title. I should know that, Jenna.
yeah, Senior Data Analyst, you're right.
Perfect. And Jess is our data analyst. So Jess and Jenna works a really good team and do amazing things for us, which we're very grateful for. So Jenna, Jess, are you ready? Yep. Okay, yep. 20 minutes are on the clock.
Thank
ready
you.
To go now.
Okay, to start us off, we actually want to hear from you. So we've put up a menti.com. If you could use the QR code or go to www.menti.com and use the code 933478. We've got a couple of questions in there that we would like to ask you. So I shall just take you there. So the first question, in a few words, what does analysis mean to you? If you could just pop your answers in, and what we'll start to see is a word cloud appear. If everybody's able to get in, do you want me to show the QR code again? I'll go back here. So you can pick up the code. Give that a refresh. What we'll do is, if this one isn't working, we'll move you on to the which industry would you like to work in, and we can capture these. If there's going to be a delay, we can come back to this at the end with the Q&A part. We can get into more detail, and that'll give us initial insights as well as to what you're interested in.
Jenna, I'm just trying it on my screen as well, and it doesn't seem to be, the refresh button doesn't seem to be working.
Okay, no problem. We can take a look at that and come back to it at the end. Alternatively, if you want to use the chat function, and you could pop some answers into there and we can review it in the Q&A. Thank you, Susan. So we'll just get cracking with a day in the life of an analyst.
Yeah.
Jess, if you could give us an overview.
Yes, so I'm Jess and I've been with the OGTC since March. I'll just let you get there, Jenna. I'm ahead of you.
Sorry, I'll catch up. Okay. Thanks.
There we go. Yeah, I've been with the OGTC since March, so I had 2 weeks in the office. Obviously, I haven't had much experience of a normal workday at the OGTC, so I imagine things will be a bit different when we're back in the office. But in my day-to-day working from home, a huge part of my job involves the creation and maintenance of our Power BI dashboards. So you can see here we've got an example of one of our dashboards. A dashboard is a really useful tool as it allows a lot of relevant information to be shown in an easy to understand format. And we have about 20 or so different dashboards live in our system, which are frequently used throughout the company to allow for data-driven decision-making. They also come in handy when we're checking our data quality for the underlying data sources, as we can see easily if any of the numbers seem incorrect. We're currently building a number of other dashboards for our various projects, and the good thing is, even though the process of building a dashboard is the same no matter what, all the dashboards are for different purposes and different audiences, and they all use different data, so it keeps it interesting as no two dashboards are the same. I found that in this job, Power BI is a really useful piece of software, as it's very easy to use, being mostly drag and drop, but you can create custom functions using DAX, Python, and R, and it gives you much more power over the data. And because we're involved in so many projects, we get to have a lot of meetings with various people. So even though I didn't get a chance to meet most people in the office before lockdown, I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of them quite well because of all of our meetings. We also handle a lot of ad hoc data requests, such as someone wanting to know how many active projects a specific department has before a meeting, or helping to create visuals for written reports. All in all, Jenna and I are kept very busy, and it's a really interesting job. We're involved in so many different things, from our solution centres to our TechX programme, that no 2 days are the same, and I find it really enjoyable working here. So now you know a little bit more about being a data analyst at the OGTC, let's talk about how I ended up here. Next slide, please, Jenna. Okay, so I wasn't one of those children who knew what they wanted to be exactly when they grew up. What I wanted to be changed all the time, and I wanted to work with animals, then be an accountant or a lawyer, even though I'm terrible at maths and debating. Then I wanted to be a biomedical scientist or a crime scene investigator, then a game developer, and in my final year at school, I wanted to be a web designer, which led me to Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, where I studied computer science. As part of my degree, I got to spend a year between my second and third year working on the IT help desk for a small oil and gas operator, which is a really interesting job, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. As it was my first proper office job, I learned quite a bit about working in an office environment, and I've actually found that some of the customer service and problem-solving skills that I learned in that job have come in handy in this job when it comes to helping people with data requests and dashboard building. Then when I was in my final year of university and trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, because I changed my mind yet again, I found out that the uni offered a data science master's degree, which was fully funded by the Data Lab, and I was encouraged by some of my lecturers to apply for it. I didn't know too much about the course or what being a data scientist really entailed, but I had enjoyed all the modules involving databases that we'd done so far, and I thought that a career in data could be interesting. So I'm glad I did apply, because I ended up discovering just how much I enjoyed working with data. We learned about a huge variety of things during the year, such as data warehousing, how various machine learning algorithms work, data mining, and data visualization. Some of the software that we used when I did the course included Hadoop, SQL Server, Power Query in Excel, and RStudio, and we learned how to use R for data analysis and data science. However, I know that the course has changed quite significantly since I graduated in 2017, as I took it in the second year it was running, and they've updated it since then. They now have a data science master's degree and a data science undergraduate course. So if you're interested, I encourage you all to check out the RGU website for more up-to-date information. So there were definitely aspects of the course I didn't enjoy so much. I found learning about how some of the machine learning algorithms, such as neural networks, worked to be quite confusing because there was a lot of complicated maths involved. And as I've said, I'm not very good at maths. But I discovered just how much I enjoy taking huge volumes of data and turning it into something that makes sense and can be understood easily through manipulating the data to clean it up and find patterns and trends, and displaying it in an easy to understand manner using graphs and other visualizations. So while I was doing my master's, I started working part-time for a small company who make reporting software for the oil and gas industry, where I worked on building report templates. And when I graduated, I started working there full-time on a research project in collaboration with the university, looking at historical drilling data and seeing if it could be used to accurately predict future drilling activity when designing a well plan. So while my job title was data scientist, looking back, I guess I could say I was really working on predictive analytics. It was quite a tough project. I was working on it mostly by myself, though I did have support from the university. The data we had available was of varying quality, and there were a lot of discrepancies between the way the different drilling operators captured data, so there was a lot of data cleanup required. But I learned a lot at that job. I had to do a talk in front of almost 100 people. I got to do a project management course. I learned how to use Python and how to create visuals in R, and I got to go to Malaysia for 3 weeks to work with our software development team and our other data scientist, which was really cool. Unfortunately, I got made redundant in October last year, along with the other data scientists, At the time, I felt like I didn't want to work in data anymore, as it was very demotivating being made redundant for seemingly no reason and with no warning, and I felt like I was let go because I wasn't good enough at the job, even though that wasn't the case. So I took some time out to think about what I wanted to do with my life, and I even considered going back to university to do a degree in food and nutritional science, which is something very different from data science. However, in February, I stumbled upon the job listing for a data analyst at the OGTC. I had a very vague understanding of what a data analyst does, but after reading the job description and reading up on the OGTC online, I decided that this was what I wanted to do, as it seemed like a varied and interesting role. Seeing how enthusiastic Jenna and our boss Nicola were about the OGTC and their jobs in my interview made me even more interested. Thankfully, I got the job and I started working here in March. Being made redundant can be devastating and feel like the end of the world, especially if you're young or it's your first proper job. It can leave you doubting yourself and your skills and can knock your confidence, but there will always be opportunities out there for you, even if they're not there right now. You might have a plan to reach your goals, and being made redundant can change that plan, but your goal doesn't have to change. As cliche as it is, when one door closes, another door opens, and being made redundant can be a really good opportunity to look at yourself and reevaluate your plans to make sure that you achieve your goal. So now you know quite a lot more about me. I'll pass you over to Jenna.
Thank you, Jess. So my journey to data analysis, similar to Jess, in school I didn't know what I wanted to do, and round about fourth year, people started working on their CVs, working with guidance teachers and planning their future. I found that quite scary because some people knew exactly what they wanted to do, knew the topics they were going to study, the path they were going to take. So I was a bit frightened, nervous, and I'm the type of person that I actually learn better through experiences with hands-on work. And because I had no career work experience, I felt like that hindered me initially. So I chose safe subjects. And after my fifth year, I had my maths, English, biology, modern studies, and decided that I was going to leave school and join Robert Gordon's University with applied social sciences. I chose that because of my mum. So my mum told me to always follow your passion. And one of my colleagues had told me last year as well, if you do follow your passion, then it doesn't really feel like work. And for me, I absolutely love data, but I hadn't realised at that point. Social sciences, if you're not aware, is psychology, sociology and criminology. And I'd initially thought that psychology was going to be my passion, but it turns out that I really loved sociology, so studying others in society, groups, seeing how they interact with each other, but it was the criminology that I was most interested in. So once I graduated, I was lucky enough to become a researcher with Grampian Police, and that stage in my life I've described as the foundation. That experience really opened up my awareness of the big bad world, in the sense that individuals, groups in society, when they're under pressure and stress through decisions they've made, then they respond in very different ways. I found that really fascinating. That allowed me to look at trends and patterns and to support the police in data-driven decision making. So it was my job. I became the subject matter expert in intelligence analysis, and I would paint the big picture. So gathering all the details, the intelligence that we had, I would then explain to the senior investigating officer the information that we had to help them make recommendations for the best possible decision based on evidence. That ranged from petty crimes, theft, house break-ins, to murder inquiries and national security. So I supported general inquiries and undercover ops. So it was a fantastic experience. I was there for 5 years and then decided that I wanted to learn more and develop further. It's just in my nature. I really enjoy reading and feel like every day is a school day. So I decided I would take my skill set and try out the private sector and try to help some of those organisations that maybe hadn't had a flavour or a taste for data analysis. That was very difficult because those type of roles didn't really exist unless you were focusing in on finance, and I didn't have experience in finance. So I made the decision to join BP as a coordinator and to work my way up again. And I did become their HR analyst for the North Sea. So again, fantastic experience. I was able to transfer my skill set and I could apply it to mergers and acquisitions and a couple of reorg structure redesigns for the company. This then led me to my next move. So after 6 years with BP, I decided I'm ready for a new challenge, new experience. What can I take from what I've learned to date? And I was lucky enough to come across the advert for the Oil and Gas Technology Centre. Specifically, the advert was looking for somebody that had a passion for data. So I thought, this is written for me. And yeah, I couldn't not at least try. Similar to Jess, so I met the team, my boss today, David, and I met Nicola and just absolutely fell in love with the position, the company and the people. And this is where I've really learned more about myself. So the organisation's really helped me understand my strengths and weaknesses and where I want to go next in terms of developing. So what I'm learning, I'm able to implement in my role and in the organisation. So it's not only helping others, but it's helping industry as well. And that's my sole aim, is I would love everyone to fall in love with data analysis. But it's to help others. So when it comes to decision making, it's a much easier task. And these are the types of analysis that I've used. Excuse me. So descriptive, what has happened, that was very much in the police. You need to establish the what has happened before you can build your pattern in your timeline. It leads on to and complements predictive, what could happen in the future based on previous patterns and trends. This was very important for prevention and detection of crime. And it was also helpful in BP because they were such a large organisation and they have over 50 years worth of data. It was fantastic to roll your sleeves up and get involved in the history, but it also helps plan out the future, which prescriptive analysis, what a business should do, that really helps with your strategy. And I believe the foundation to this is what, who, when, where. And my two favourites are the why and the how, because you really get to interrogate the detail and find a solution as long as you keep asking why, and asking how allows you to understand the process, the steps taken. Takes us on to our next section, looking out for energy transition opportunities.
So I personally think that data analysis will almost certainly always be a viable career choice, as will careers like data scientist or jobs like data engineer. Over the past several years, organizations have been realizing just how valuable data can be to their organization. For example, various social media companies such as Facebook base their entire business model on gathering and selling user data, and apps such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube use data analysis and data science to personalize what users see, which keeps users coming back to their apps. But that's not the only place data is used, as Jenna will tell you.
So likes of retail, we all need it, we all use it, especially more so than ever, we're relying on it. Even before the current situation, companies such as Tesco have advanced analytics. It's amazing if you get the chance to go and have a look at some of the work that they do. They review consumer patterns based on store locations, based on the season, so where they're gathering the products from. And I believe energy transition is only going to create more opportunities, especially in relation to this when it comes to recycling.
Yeah, like as the industry continues to gather more data and information regarding things like decommissioning and carbon capture and storage, data analysts, they're going to be needed to make sense of the data and allow operators to make big decisions based on what we tell them regarding a net zero future.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be part of that adventure?
Yeah.
What you can do next. So there are a few options right now. If you're looking to gain some experience and to just dabble with it to see if it's something you're interested in, what types of analysis you're interested in, then I would highly recommend Power BI. There's currently a 60-day free trial, and you can gain experience for your CV or for your next interview to be able to say that you've used that piece of software.
So if you want to get some data sets, Kaggle is a really good website. It's free to register, and there's thousands and thousands of data sets on all sorts of topics, from avocado prices to international football club results to Game of Thrones subtitles. There's also a huge number of tutorials to follow along, and you can see what other users have done with data sets to get inspiration. So if you're interested, I would highly recommend looking at Kaggle. There's also a number of courses online, from Google's Learn Digital program to Coursera to Udacity. Some of them are free and some aren't, but I'd recommend doing one or two if you're interested in learning more about data.
Perfect. And in September, we're relaunching the Mentoring with Energy app. So if you're interested in mentoring or being a mentee, then please look out for that one. I've popped the QR code in the bottom. Promise that one works. And yeah, please look out for it, because it's really important that as we go through the energy transition and people are understanding more about our next move and the plan ahead, that we take each other along the same journey. Everybody learns at a different pace, so it's really important to just be patient and support each other in our learnings.
Fantastic. Jenna and Jess, that was amazing. I feel like I have heard that presentation before. So everybody in the call, I've heard it before, but I think listening to it again, just sit back and listen again, I learned so much more. So thank you both for your time in presenting that information. And I feel like I've learned so much more about you, even though I work with you every day. I feel like I've learned more about you. Let me just turn my camera on. Thank you, Hannah, for telling me, although who wants to look at me? I'd much rather look at Jenna and Jess. So before I come on, we've got quite a few questions here. So I'm going to give everybody our participants just a few minutes to gather their thoughts. If you've got any questions there, we've got about 4 there already. But I've got a question just before I come to those ones. I found it really amazing that both of you came from such different backgrounds, you know, in terms of psychology, sociology. You know, you didn't just walk into data careers, which was quite interesting. But I guess my question is, you've talked a bit about the technical side of things, the qualifications and the software that you use. What about the personal qualities to have a successful career in data analytics, data science? What do you think are the personal qualities that you need? So maybe come to you first, Jess. What do you think?
I think that people skills are really quite important, because you do spend quite a lot of time talking to people. As I've mentioned, we have a lot of meetings, we're building dashboards, we're dealing with requests from people. So you need to know how to talk to them and see what they want, because sometimes people will come to you and they have an idea for what they want, but they don't quite know how to get there. So you need to be able to kind of coax it out of them. And patience is another good one as well, when you're dealing with people who don't quite know what they want.
So it's not quite like the IT crowd. You're not quite huddled away in a basement somewhere, not talking to any people.
No.
That's a good urban myth that we've just squashed there, Jess. Thank you. What about you, Jess? What do you think are the personal qualities that you need?
I would agree with Jess. So communication is king. Because we work across all of the departments, it's really important that we understand the business. And in order to do that, we need to understand the people we're working with. And we need to help support them, because that will help them make better decisions. It aligns us, which is the aim of the game.
I also think that problem solving is quite an important skill to have, and creativity. Like when you're designing dashboards, you need to know what looks good, because it's all well and good getting the data, but if you can't make it look visually appealing, then I'm not really sure what's the point in building one.
Absolutely, because it's interesting, because I thought it would have been a maths background that you needed, but it's interesting all these other skills that you need, the creativity, the people. I mean, that's amazing, actually. Thank you. I'm going to come to one or two of the questions in our chat. So I was really interested that you mentioned redundancy, Jess. The fact that some people have got to go away and maybe reinvent themselves because of what's going on in the world. And also we've got a situation at the moment where a lot of the graduates who have spent years learning and training are now coming out into a world that they're having to think again about where their careers lie. So Sebastian had a great question, and it was round about, his question is, how difficult would it be to transition from an engineering degree to working in data? He says that he's recently graduated with a degree in electrical engineering, and he's learning Python for data science and machine learning, but finding companies willing to take in employees with that sort of background proves difficult. So any tips or hints for Sebastian?
Jenna, have you got one? You look like you're about to say something.
No, sorry, I'll let you go first. I'll follow up.
Okay. I'd say that, honestly, just looking at courses online, Coursera, Udacity, etc., and performing those, because I know that some of these courses do offer, micro degrees, where you learn about 5 or 6 different things. You get a certificate for your LinkedIn. And I think building up a portfolio, looking at Kaggle, for example, you get notebooks there where you can show off your work. So I think that could be a good idea. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's perfect, Jess. I would recommend the same. He's going down the right route with the Python, and if that's what he enjoys, then stick with it. Yeah. I would say it'd be really important for him to make that transition, to make contact with people in different organisations, different industries, whichever one's taking his interest, so he can gather up which route he wants to go down, and by making those contacts he can understand what each organisation is looking for in terms of an analyst, because it can be very different, not just within public and private sector, but each organisation has a different understanding as to what an analyst is. That's so if he finds the right people and possibly the Mentor app might help him as well with connections. That would be really beneficial, because then he'll have a bit of a clearer definition, and people will be able to help him potentially make that breakthrough.
That's all good advice. The other thing I would suggest, Sebastian, is that I think the marketplace is going to be, the labour market is going to be so competitive. So I think you need to maybe think, you might want to get some help around about your finding places to apply for roles and not being passive. So actually go out there and apply to just right to the kind of companies you want to. So we are doing a couple of masterclasses on that. The last 2 masterclasses in this series are on that subject. So you might want to come back along, and we can you might learn something there as well. Okay, I'm kind of conscious of time, so a couple more questions here. There's a few questions here around about software. So Sharam has asked, is there a particular reason that you've got a preference for Power BI? He's got some experience in Spotfire visual software. So what's your thoughts? So that's quite a technical question. So rather than the whole question, why do you like Power BI?
From my experience, so I've got a range of experience in various softwares, but Power BI for me helps me deliver what the organisation needs, multiple sources into one format. Once you land that and people in the organisation understand and are familiar and comfortable with the software, then it's good to keep educating them and taking them with you. So yeah, Power BI has been around for years. It's only just become more of a hot topic because more people are learning about it and e-learning's available. But yeah, definitely there's other software out there. It just depends on the type of analysis that you're looking to do.
And I've heard some organisations have stopped using PowerPoint, that they just use their Power BI dashboards instead, because it's pulling the data live from the system.
Great, it's much more efficient. Yeah, you're right.
Two more questions. Jess, this is going back to your presentation.
Yeah.
Tegwin had a question about what the R stood for. Now, I'm not sure what that was referring to. So,
Right, so R is a programming language. It's used mostly for statistical analysis and data analysis, but you can use it to implement other machine learning algorithms and do visualizations. So that's just what we learned at university, which is why I mentioned it.
two last points. Somebody has asked about connecting to you on LinkedIn, so I'll leave that up to you. That's your personal space, not a company one, so I'll leave that one to you. And the last question, which is a super one, is if you were going to give back, if you could give yourself your younger self advice about your career, what would that be? So maybe start with you, Jenna.
I would probably say what my mum said to me, follow your passion. Find something that you really, really enjoy. And as Jess said earlier, if you set yourself a goal, it doesn't matter if you don't stick to the plan, the goal remains the same. You might just be changing direction to get there. So stay motivated.
And Jess?
I think my advice would be don't be afraid to ask for help. If you come into a company straight out of university, you might feel like you know everything because you've just graduated, and then you get to an office and you realize, oh, I don't know as much as I thought I did. But yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help, because obviously you're new and you don't know everything about the organisation.
Absolutely, that's a really good comments. Thanks both Jess and Jenna. Really appreciate your time in taking us through your career experience. Last question for you is a fun one. If you had to describe yourself in 3 hashtags, what would it be? So we'll come to you first, Jess.
Organised, creative, and cat lady.
Cat lady. Oh,
love cats.
Okay. And Jenna, what about you?
I would be, my hashtags, grateful, geek, and my last one would be proud of my babies. They're the centre of my universe.
Oh, they're great hashtags. Well, thank you very much. I feel like we got to know not just your careers, but you both as people, Jenna and Jess. So thank you very, very much for being so open and honest, which is great. Participants on the call, thank you very much for coming along today. I hope you got something out of it. Next week's session is on finance. We've got 3 more career sessions. After finance, it's IT, HR and law. And then we've got our final 2 masterclasses, which are on finding and applying for jobs, and then how to get through an interview, both face-to-face and online. So if you click on that QR code, that will take you to the Inspire20 page. And if you want to register in any of those, we'd be delighted to see you again. And also on that page, you'll find some resources that we think are really good. There's loads and loads of stuff out there, but there's some really good things there. The Life Skills Barclays got some really good, everything from finance to applying for jobs. Oilandgascareer.com, loads of information about careers in the energy sector. And My World of Work, you find lots and lots of free training, including some of the courses that Jess mentioned earlier. And if you've got ideas, suggestions, we'd really love to hear from you. Here's our email address, it's STEM@the-OGTC. So any ideas, suggestions, feedback, if there's questions that you wish you'd been able to ask or occur to you later, drop them to me and I'll pass them on to Jenna and Jess. So finally, thank you, Jenna and Jess, and thank you all the participants for taking part. Hopefully see you again next week. Bye. Keep dry.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.